You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host, Shante Charles. It is another Winning Wednesday, and it's Relationship Wednesday for us, where we talk all things relationship on Wednesdays. Today, we are looking back at the book Drama Free that we have been reading for quite a bit of time, a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. And I hope that us reading this and having discussions and having talks about family relationships is now hopefully you're able to put into practice some of the things that we've been talking about as we go into the holidays, right? Because that is the goal, to not just read, but to actually practice what we read where we can in our lives. All right, and if you just give me one moment, I'm going to adjust my settings in YouTube because I don't have any moderators here today. So I want to make sure that we are on subscriber only and that we are not being distracted. All right, so as we are rounding out the holiday season, we've got, of course, Christmas and all the other holidays that are in the midst of that. And so you might be celebrating several different things depending on what your community looks like, right? Some of us will be also celebrating Kwanzaa. Some people will be celebrating Hanukkah, um, whatever other holidays that are going on. So you might find yourselves in more than one social setting. And hopefully, as I said, these pointers that we've been looking at in terms of boundaries, setting boundaries, being very clear about what you want, what you need, what you expect when you're in social settings, especially with your family members. Hopefully, this book has been helping you out. And I'm always going to encourage you to buy the book for yourself, read through it, underline it. Behind every chapter, she has prompts of things that you can do, whether it's journaling or action steps that you can take. So I really like to present books to people that have those actionable parts to it, not just the reading part. This is chapter 9 we're starting, and it is entitled Ending Relationships When Others Won't Change, right? So the previous chapter we looked at how to manage relationships with people who won't change, and now she's going to talk about ending relationships. Because some relationships you can manage, but depends on the nature of what's happening in the relationship, you might actually have to end it. And most of us don't like ending relationships, or we're not very good at it. So let's take a look at what the good doctor has to say. She's going to give us a scenario to start out this chapter, so let's read. Jacob's parents were never married to each other, and his father, Bruce, had been in and out of his life. Bruce seemed to have symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder and bouts of depression, but he was never formally diagnosed. He was often agitated, paranoid, withdrawn, or verbally aggressive, which made it difficult for him to get along with others. Everyone except Bruce knew and accepted that he was struggling with mental health issues. It was the norm for him to steal the show at family events by arguing and causing a scene. As a result, Jacob was tired of the constant chaos and ready to end his relationship with his father. He had tried several strategies, from changing himself to accepting the situation to ignoring Bruce's offensive behaviors. Yet his dad's actions only seemed to get worse as he did more and more things that Jacob needed to somehow forgive and accept. For a few weeks, Jacob tried to convince his dad to try therapy. But Bruce became defensive about it, always blaming his issues on others. Sometimes he blamed his problems on his upbringing, and other times he accused people of mistreating him. Whenever Jacob tried to talk about important topics, Bruce would shut down and disappear for weeks or months. Jacob considered how ending the relationship with his dad would affect others in the family, but he was done and wanted peace. He just wanted the break to cause as few casualties as possible. So let's look really quickly here at the impact of mental health issues on relationships. I know that I have my own personal experience with this because I do have a parent that is dealing with their own mental health issues. And so this is a conversation that deeply impacts me personally. So as I read, I'm also going to be learning along with you. Everyone has mental health ups and downs, but some people have serious issues that affect their ability to maintain healthy relationships. In his book, Depression is Contagious, Michael Yapko discusses how parental mental health can affect children. Attachment is damaged, for example, when mothers are depressed. They may speak less often to their children, be unsupportive, or seem emotionally unavailable. Most of the statistics we have about mental health care are based on formally diagnosed people. Yet there are large numbers of people with undiagnosed disorders that are severe enough to harm their relationships. In many dysfunctional relationships, mental health issues are unrelated and ignored, but a problem can't be repaired if we pretend it doesn't exist. Of course, diagnosis doesn't guarantee someone will manage their relationships any better. Nevertheless, some dysfunctional families enable those with mental health problems rather than help them. While growing up, I was taught that some people had mental health issues that needed tending, but that those issues were to be accepted. That's just how they are. Sometimes, however, how they were was abusive, dismissive, mean, and sabotaging. What if we were to stop making excuses and collectively encourage these family members to get the mental health support they need? Whether it be therapy, whether it be medication along with that. This can be challenging since therapy is still considered very taboo in many families. The whole family is affected when one person decides to go to therapy because individual changes impact the whole family system. Conversely, when therapy isn't sought, families continue to grapple with the same issues over and over. Depression, anxiety, mood, personality issues, and other mental health issues are often the main causes of relationship fractures. So let's look at depression and anxiety today. Depression presents at differing levels of severity. Some people can move through life despite their depression, while others are consumed by it and unable to engage in the world. We often call these people um, people are often called high functioning depression when you are dealing with that, but you're able to manage your life. In relationships, depression can look like the following: crying often with no known cause, losing interest in things that were once enjoyable, ghosting, disappearing abruptly from people and obligations, feeling withdrawn around people, being easily irritated, constantly feeling angry, having frequent melancholia, neglecting duties, being emotionally unavailable. Anxiety, social phobias, PTSD, and general anxiety can also have detrimental effects on relationships. Anxiety involves racing thoughts, worry, and or preoccupation with the past or future. It can even cause physical discomfort such as diarrhea or skin rashes. Most people experience anxiety to some extent, but fewer people find that it inhibits their life in a significant way. In relationships, anxiety can look like not participating in a social gathering, showing up inconsistently, being in chronic emotional distress, intrusively violating boundaries, making promises and underdelivering, sabotaging yourself or someone else, feeling paranoid about someone's words or actions. Now, there's also personality issues. Borderline, narcissistic, and dependent personality disorders tend to cause the most relationship issues. Unlike depression or anxiety, a personality disorder can be more pervasive. People with specific personality symptoms may find it challenging to maintain relationships, not just with those in their family, but also with friends, romantic partners, and business colleagues. In relationships, personality issues can look like blaming others, showing high reactivity to normal occurrences, reinventing the truth, chronic gaslighting, being unable to respect and implement boundaries, having difficulty making healthy decisions, behaving erratically, being self absorbed. Without a formal diagnosis, labeling a mental health issue isn't always helpful, however. Instead, focus on the behaviors you see and how they get in the way of your relationship with the other person. Nevertheless, you can't control how someone manages their mental health. Often people go to therapy but still don't change as you expect or within the time frame that you would prefer. All you can do in that situation is take care of your own mental health. Now, two issues that she's going to go into, which I think are very important because sometimes either one of these happens during the holidays or the impact that's made on a person's life can affect how they come into the holidays or how they bring themselves or how they present themselves in the holidays. Now, growing up, I really, really enjoyed the holidays. I didn't always understand all of the adult um, undertones that were going on in the holidays growing up with my family. But one thing that I did notice and I did see was people willing to communicate with each other. I saw blended families during the holidays, people being able to come along and get along with each other with blended families. There wasn't a whole lot of arguments or frictions or disinvites to the holiday gatherings when I was growing up. So I feel like I got a really solid, a more solid foundation um, than would have been expected growing up in the hood when it came to holiday seasons and holiday times. That is not always the case for everyone. There are some people that their whole family is disconnected during the holidays, or they're having to go see one parent during the holiday, stay for a bit, and then go see another set of parents during the holiday because there isn't a blended family or there isn't a desire to have that ex partner or that ex spouse be able to be present at the same time. So everybody's dynamic is different, and hopefully, what she's going to share is going to help a little bit with what those dynamics are. Unlearning that mistreatment is acceptable if it's family. This is a really important thing because unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have relatives that think that it's okay to mistreat them because they're family, or well, you should know that I'm playing, or you should know that I'm joking. And I think if you're going to a holiday setting and you've already expressed in the past that you feel uncomfortable with certain conversations, whether that be conversations about your body, whether that be conversations about your sexuality, whether that be conversations about your relationship status, single, married, divorced, other, or it's complicated. Um, if you're already voicing that, hey, when we get here, we're going to keep it, cordial. We're going to mind our business. We're going to play games. We're going to eat food. We're going to check on our elders. So if you're already kind of putting those boundaries in for the holiday season and you're coming across someone who is going to intentionally press your nerves and you know that that person's going to be there, I think that this conversation may help you. When people say you have to love your family no matter what, they may not understand or comprehend the what that has caused you to create distance or end the relationship. Like me, if I'm having a relationship issue with a person, I feel like that information needs to stay between me and that person unless it's absolutely necessary to bring in another party. What happened between you and I happened between you and I. Unless it's a matter of, like I said, maybe safety or something like that, then I might say, hey, this is why I'm no longer interacting with this person. And I want you to understand that this person has the capability to put you in an unsafe environment. If it's not that, then whatever is causing this distance or whatever you decided on really needs to stay between you and that person. Being family doesn't give anyone a get out of jail free pass. Even in family relationships, there can be consequences for harming others. Perhaps the only way to love certain family members and be well, because you know that's my thing here, being well and being light, is to love them from a distance. In doing this, you're choosing self preservation and self love. It isn't an uncomplicated choice, but it might be the healthiest one for you. Remember that love is a verb and action is needed to sustain relationships. When there aren't any beneficial actions to support the relationship, you lose the ability to maintain it. So when staying is harder, leaving becomes an option. She writes, as a therapist, I have seen people develop their own depression, anxiety, and severe mental health issues as a result of trying to maintain unhealthy relationships with family members. We aren't naturally inclined to drop these relationships or change how we show up in them, so we hold on, hoping that something will change. If you've arrived at the place of wanting to sever a relationship, you've likely already tried everything you can to stay. Remember this, you don't have to accept mistreatment from people just because you're related to them. I'm going to say that two more times. You don't have to accept mistreatment from people just because you're related to them. You don't have to accept mistreatment from people just because you're related to them. You don't have to stay in unhealthy relationships because you have shared history. Healthy relationships are rooted in love, mutual respect, and connection. Ask yourself, is this relationship supportive of my values and what I want out of life? Now, the other thing that many of us might be dealing with, I know I am, is estrangement. Severing ties with one or more family members is called estrangement, and it's more common than we may care to acknowledge. Sometimes the estrangement is intended to be short term, used as a pause, or it may be long term with no plans to reconcile. Two types of estrangement can occur: intentional emotional detachment or physical estrangement with termination of all contact. Estrangement may sometimes seem sudden, but the cutoff often happens when the person who leaves has had enough. So it doesn't really happen out of the blue. The seeds of judgment, differing beliefs, mistrust, chaos, or trauma may have been present for many years. Family rifts can feel shameful or embarrassing to some as they struggle to control the narrative or image of the family. Dr. Carl Pillemer, author of Fault Lines, Fractured Families and How to Mend Them, has identified six top reasons for estrangement. Now, I will say in my family's case, it's not only just an issue of, and I'm sorry, I hope my volume is up now for YouTube. It was down. So hopefully people can hear me. Um, I will say when it comes to estrangement from my family, um, part of it had to do with, like I said, mental health issues and that person choosing to make a break, um, and not really, they're inconsistent with the way that they deal with their mental health issues. So because of this, they have chosen to be estranged from the family. No one wants them to be estranged. But again, you can't make the decisions on people's life choices for them. They have to make those themselves. So here's top 6 reasons for estrangement. Number one, issues in the relationship since childhood. Number two, divorce that created resentment, animosity, and the choosing of sides. Number three, fights over money, including loans and inheritances. Number four, unmet needs and a repeated failure to adhere to boundaries. Number five, differences in beliefs, lifestyles, and values. And number six, ongoing challenges with in laws. The leading cause of estrangement for mothers and daughters, for example, is a difference in values. Mothers who are divorced are more likely to have estranged relationships with their children, likely due to the negative impact of the father and mother's relationship. All right, so we're going to stop here for today. Next week, we'll be back and we're going to talk about dealing with guilt after estrangement, and then some reminders for people who are dealing with difficult family dynamics. Okay, we'll also look at the other book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, which is dealing with your individual boundaries. So we'll pick this back up on next week. I want to thank you for your time and attention. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be light. Take care of yourself and have a great, wonderful rest of the day.